Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HabsChronicle podcast. I'm Alex Mano, and I'm again with David Fema and James Kierans.
Afternoon.
Yeah, say hi.
Hi.
Today, we're going to be talking about a couple things going on recently with the World Cup of Hockey, as well as the training camp that started for the Canadians, and the latest rumors that have surfaced for Nathan Beaulieu.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about tonight.
Well,
Tonight.
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
I know it's the
Yeah.
first one of the season, a bit rusty. That's okay.
Yeah, you know what? Pierre Hood makes this mistake all the time at afternoon games. It's always bonsoir, like 1 p.m. So
Sometimes you're just too used to it.
Yeah, I can get
Afternoon
past.
games are pretty rare, so
Yeah, I just can I jump into it? I
go
want to
ahead.
start off. Okay.
go for it.
Who are you rooting for in the World Cup?
obviously choices in Canada, mainly not just because I'm Canadian, but Carey Price and to a lesser extent Shea Weber. And if it wasn't in Canada, definitely be Team.
You can tell there's a bit of a loaded question because I'm rooting for Team North America
Mm-hmm.
entirely because they are far more entertaining,
Oh, I totally agree.
and it's just I watched the Team North America games first. I watched both of the North America versus Europe. Then I went to watch Canada USA. I feel like I know intellectually that Canada is way better than North America, at least decently better, but they just look. North America makes Canada look like a bunch of old men, essentially. The way they attack the blue line, they don't carry it out of the zone with quite as much vigor, with quite as much speed. Now I know they weren't playing against Zdeno Chara and Dennis Seidenberg, but I've kind of fallen in love with that team. What are your like?
Yeah, and I watched their first game against Team Europe, or that was their second game possibly. Either way, after not even the first period, they already had 5 goals, and it was just like so electrifying to watch. And their defensive game was lacking, and it showed throughout the game as the score got closer. And then I started to realize, this team is great, but they obviously have their flaws, and that's kind of an experience thing. But at the same time, it was just so much more fun to watch than any team in the competition.
Absolutely.
But that being said, like that's why they'd be my second choice. Like for me, it just has to be Canada. But if not them, definitely Team North America.
And that game proved that they're still kids because they weren't able to maintain that effort for a full 60 minutes.
Well, I mean, I guess
it's something you actually see all the time in the NHL.
the Montreal Canadiens.
Especially with the Canadians, the second the team makes that goalie change, something happens.
Yeah.
It's like one team wakes up and the other team just forgets how to play.
That's absolutely true. I notice this all the time in hockey games. I mean, I've mostly watched Canadians games, but whenever the opposing team pulls the goalie, like I always have a bit of a fear, like you said, but also I just I know I'm watching the game, and for example in the Team Europe North America game, I was like, okay, they scored 5 goals in like 10-15 minutes or something. I'm just doing in my head the math, like the ratio of how many goals they could potentially score in this game just based on the rate they're going at. And then then the goalie changes and they score maybe 1 more, 2 more goals for the rest of the game. So like there's always, it's like a psychological effect or something. I'm not really sure.
So, I mean, I'm going for Team Canada. You can't. I feel like you just can't go for any other team.
Well, sure you can.
You could go for North America, I guess, but Team Canada is Team Canada, and as Habs fans, we're supporting Carey Price. We're supporting Shea Weber now.
I'm especially supporting Carey Price. Like I'm just so excited to see him back in action. It's just I just couldn't help but smile like half the time. Every time he made a save, every time I saw his face, like it just it got me. Like you miss him like throughout the whole year, just not seeing him play.
Yeah, but the first game he didn't look quite like himself, did he?
Well, as far as puck handling went, and even in the second game, it was still like not totally there. I think he just has to get back in the rhythm of it. But just to see how calm he is, like it's pretty rare.
Yeah, okay. The way he does play the puck, the way he does just hold himself on the ice, he's unique in that regard. You really can tell who he is just without looking at the number. But the third goal, I think, in the first game against the U.S.,
the one that bounced in front of, and
he gives up the softest rebound from like a wrist shot.
But did you hear his explanation about that?
No, I didn't. Enlighten me, please.
Because he was asked about that, and people were like, "Oh, you showed your rust on that goal," and he said, "Honestly, I don't think I did." Because I went to, I was going to kick it out with my pad into the corner, but just as the puck got towards me, it skipped up and it bounced and hit me in whatever. So
the way the shot went in was a knuckleball.
Yeah, so
it was a knuckleball.
So the puck that when it hit him, it bounced unpredictably right in front of him, and his plan failed. And he said, I could have scooped it up instead, but he says like that's something you never do. And he said, so it was just an unfortunate bounce, but he doesn't, Carey Price is a pretty humble guy, and he's not the type to say, oh, I'm so good, blah, blah, blah. He said, he broke down the play exactly as it went. And I personally didn't see it. I don't think you saw that either.
No, I didn't see it.
So, I mean, and I'm sure a lot of people didn't see it. So when he explained that, I felt a bit better about it. But you still did see the rust throughout the game, especially with his puck handling. It wasn't totally there.
It's the rebounds. The rebounds are not... I think he's one of the best with rebound control.
Yeah,
He's definitely not the one to give a rebound straight in front of him on a weak shot. So I'm not exactly worried from what I saw. It's especially even the Patrick Kane goal in the first game where he gave a little rebound and the goal went in from the side of the net.
I'm like, it's Patrick Kane.
It's Patrick Kane.
And then Ovechkin scored on him too. I'm like, it's...
Well, that was typical Ovechkin. Yeah. That shot was not going to be stopped by anybody.
I know.
It was just a blast.
And even the first goal was like a redirect. I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
And with Carey Price, a lot of the goals that get in on him are redirects, because once that happens, you can barely do anything about it. And
it was a big redirect.
Yeah, you can just hope that it hits you, basically.
Pretty much. I guess there's no real training you could do for that, so...
No, he didn't play too poorly, but he wasn't a DD like he usually is. Like Corey Crawford had a better game than him in the second Canada game.
He did well. If you take all three performances, he only did play half a game, but he did have the strongest showing. I think was Corey Crawford, but that actually helps him because now he's the permanent backup.
Well,
maybe not
permanent,
but he did make the team over Braden Holtby, because Braden Holtby is a scratch.
Really shocked me. But at the same time, I think part of what went into that was the fact that Crawford has he has 2 Stanley Cup rings.
Definitely.
And I think just that in itself, gives him a bit of an edge over Holtby, just because he has success in pressure and, when things are on the line. And, Holtby is a great goalie and I really like him and he had a great season, but he has never really succeeded, on a team level.
Yeah.
So...
And he did have 48 wins last season, right?
Yeah, but he had such a good team in front of him, and
it's reputation versus reputation.
And he didn't get out of the second round. It was the second round, right?
No, it was the second round, lost in 6
to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Corey Crawford is a better goalie, not by a lot. I used to think he was a bit overrated, kind of a Jonathan Quick-esque. Just you happen to be on the right team at the right time. No, I watched some of those saves. I've seen his numbers have been consistently high.
Yeah.
He's up there. He's not Price, but he's up there.
Yeah.
With like Bishop and Schneider, I'd say.
And even with Carey Price being the starter now that it's being announced, it doesn't mean he's going to keep it, because back, if you guys remember, in the Olympics in 2010, Vancouver,
Brodeur
was our starter, and I believe it was after the first game. I don't think he had a strong showing, and then right after the first game, it was Longo. Longo became our starting goalie, and he kept using Longo for the rest of the tournament, and it worked.
Yeah, and Canada has like such a good situation in net, like that they haven't had in quite a few years now. Carey Price, Corey Crawford, and Braden Holtby as your 3 goalies, like you can't get better than that.
Yeah,
exactly. The U.S. also has a pretty decent situation, but like any goalie that Canada puts in is going to do the job.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
The thing about the U.S. situation, shifting to them, they should have a good situation. They won't, because they're going to fall in love with Jonathan Quick. They already have, and they're going to make him their starter. And
he is their starter.
Well, there you go.
It's already announced.
He is a good goalie, and he obviously a starter. He won Stanley Cups for a reason. He's not elite. He shouldn't be playing. He shouldn't be starting over Bishop or Schneider.
I think definitely not over Schneider. Who's
Schneider.
The Braden Holtby for the U.S. right now? Because it was just announced that he's the third goalie, so he's the scratch.
And he's
is it Ben Bishop or
it's Ben Bishop is the backup, and Corey Schneider is the scratch.
Right? No, that doesn't.
Ben Bishop just looked. I find he looked weird. Now, I mean, it's only two.
He always looks weird.
He's
exhibition 6'7"
games.
and he doesn't move.
Okay, so I have a question.
I think he moves too much.
And I'm going to get killed for this by one of our writers who begged me not to talk about Subban on this podcast.
Can I ask which one?
Sarah.
Okay.
Okay, so if Subban was on Team Canada,
yes,
how would you feel about your affiliation? Would it change anything if it was, say, Subban and not Weber?
Yeah, it'd help a bit, but I am making a very concerted effort to not hate Shea Weber for being not PK Subban, because I know it's not his fault. It may give me a bad feeling in my gut every time I see him make a play where I think, man, PK could have been there instead. But I don't hold it against Shea Weber for being where he is, rather. He's a more conservative player. It's a short tournament. You don't want that much variance. I get why you'd prefer Weber over Subban. I don't think it's the right call, but I'm not losing sleep over it. You could take anybody off Team Canada roster and put a plug in their place, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So Shea Weber's far from being a plug.
Yeah.
Meh.
And actually, speaking of Weber, how do you guys feel that he's not on the power play? Because we got him now to basically quarterback our power play, and I've noticed he comes on maybe for the last 10 seconds of the power play because Mike Babcock seems to like to run the fourth forward at the point. He's done it with Stamkos, and he's done it with Sagan, who's gone, and he's also done it with Giroux, who, by the way, is the scratch tonight.
So my thoughts on that, like as much as I was really hoping to see Weber on the point just to get, a preview of what it'll be like, I think, on a team like Team Canada where you just have so much talent and so many players, so many forwards who could play the point like Stamkos, for example, and when you have guys like Doughty on the blue line, you can see where Weber, while he is, somewhat of a power play specialist and he has that bomb from the point, they can afford to not have to use him because it's not going to, whereas the Habs, they need to have him on that blue line.
Well, they just spent a considerable asset in order to get him.
But it's like a totally different situation on Canada, I think. Like just as like a personal fan, like I want to see Weber, playing there so I can see, what he has to give because, especially the way the team's playing and 5-on-5 and stuff, he's not getting that many opportunities to, rip a shot. To get set up. Like he's taken some wrist shots, but like he hasn't really been teed up.
I think I did see one shot, and as much as I don't want to buy into the hype too much, just out of pure cynicism, was a hell of a shot.
Yeah.
So this tournament really is the first time that a lot of Montreal Canadiens fans get to see Shea Weber.
At least like pay attention to him because we've seen him on so many stages. It's just we've never really thought to look at him.
So, all right, how's he doing? What do you think?
He's been put into a more defensive role. I mean, I've seen him block a lot of shots already. He's the first guy out on the penalty kill, along with Vlasic. So, I mean, we're getting that side of him. It's just I want to see the offensive side. I want to see the power play. I want to see the shot. Yeah, we have a lot of other guys that could fill that role who could also move better, like Doughty, like Burns. So, I guess it's fine, but from a defensive standpoint, I think he's very sharp. The penalty kill, he's been very good. Makes good decisions with the puck. He knows when to rim it around the boards, when to, chip it to a player down the middle or down to a side.
Yeah,
it's good decision making. It's little things that make him. It's a very generic and cheesy thing to say.
Simply,
simple. Yeah, it's generic.
What I like about watching him play, and what I don't. At the same time, I don't like it just because, we're always just, thrown Subban package highlights in our face every time the Weber discussion comes up. And I just see, how Subban just, skates all over the ice, score these electrifying goals. And, you won't see that from Weber. But at the same time, Weber's consistent at what he does. And he's, what you're going to get from him. And the players around him know what they're going to get and where he's going to be and what he's going to do. Whereas with other players that are, puck movers and more risk takers like Doughty, Subban, and so on, they're more prone to mistakes, even though they'll still, make a lot of really great plays.
Risk and reward.
Yeah. So with Weber, it's just, and like he's said this, that this is the kind of player he is, and I really noticed this in the tournament. He stays out of the way of his other defense partner when they're transitioning back into the other side. He knows he's not the guy who's going to transition the play. He gives the puck to them, and he gets the hell out of the way, and he doesn't make himself an option for a pass. Like he said that, and you watch him. He just he gives the puck and he just stands out of the way, because he doesn't want to interfere with the play, and he knows that guy is going to bring the puck up and start the next play. And then Weber will come and support the play, and he'll trail behind. And I've seen this in the tournament already. The forwards are going up, or the puck moving defenseman's going up, and he's trailing behind, and they pass it towards the blue line, and he gets there, and he's wide open because he's behind the play, and that's great. Like he's very consistent at doing that. You don't. You have defensemen like Yemelin or whoever that just kind of skate around, not even really with much strategy, and they're just there, and just there's no much logic or sense to how they play the game.
And I think it's a very good thing that he does that, because God forbid the puck moving defenseman that's going up, or the player going up, makes a mistake, turns it over. at least Weber is, a couple feet behind and he's able to recover. Whereas if he goes up, say like a Yemelin, if the turnover happens, well, there's no catching up. It's an odd man rush.
And this was the thing with Subban and Markov as a pairing, because I felt like Markov wasn't like Weber in the sense that he would hang back and be there in case a turnover happened. Subban turned over the puck, there was a big odd man rush going the other way or a breakaway going the other way, and it often led to goals, especially towards in the second half of the season. And like that's obviously where things deteriorated. That's a hard word to say. But Colorado game, that was the famous one where Therrien threw him under the bus. But
I think he threw him under the bus basically for the time.
Yeah,
there was like a little over a minute left, maybe a little over 2 minutes left.
Yeah, and I mean, was it a tie game at that point?
Yes.
Yeah. So and that cost the game. So I think going back to Weber, having him be like I said, the reason I like his play so far in Canada. I said I didn't like it because it's not electrifying. It's not, just fun to watch. Like that's why you like Team North America, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because they're just so much fun to watch. Weber's not fun to watch.
He does not fit on that team at all. Every single one of the North American D, they jump up in the play. They pinch a lot, and sometimes that does lead to some defensive issues, we'll call them. But they end up pressuring their opponents a lot more. They keep the zone. They keep the puck alive in the zone a lot more.
Yeah.
Whereas Weber plays a much more supporting role. He makes sure everything's going to be okay, rather than I'm going to go make the play.
Yeah. And another thing I like, and that it's only pre-tournament, and you could already see like just how fierce he is, like as far as not letting any crap go by, and like if someone takes a shot at the goalie or at one of his teammates, he's there right away, and he like knocks you down, and he gets right up in your face. And like this is just pre-tournament. Like,
on two plays in particular, I remember there was one play along the benches where he was basically manhandling Palmieri with one hand.
Yeah.
And the other play where he got hit from behind from Kessler. I don't know if you saw his face when he got up, but it was fierce. It was a I'm gonna kill you face.
Yeah, and like I'm just so excited to see when things start counting.
Yeah,
like, not even within this tournament. Like I'm sure we'll see in this tournament, but down the road in the season when we're playing Boston or something, or when we get to the playoffs, if I mean I think we will, and we'll get to that.
It's likely.
Yeah,
more than likely.
Yeah, I mean I think it's the whole thing about health, and talking about the Habs now, I think we can make a transition into that.
Actually, just before that,
wrap up a little bit World Cup.
Just actually a very general question. How do you guys feel about the whole tournament? Because a lot of people don't like it because they were saying it was cool when you had countries, but now you created two teams.
Gimmicky,
they're basically very gimmicky. Do you like the North America Europe concepts, or?
I think it's a fair way to get more people involved in the tournament, and more talented players involved in the tournament. Because obviously this isn't the Olympics where you can have all the nations that have enough players to represent them play, and so this allows a really high caliber amount of talent like on all the teams. Mm-hmm. Like I thought Czech Republic was really weak when I just saw the lineup. Then they take out North America. I mean it was pre-tournament, but still they beat them.
Yeah,
and Team Europe I'm not really sold on, although they do have some pretty good players on that team. Although I think they just had a good game against. Who was it?
Sweden.
Against Sweden.
Draisaitl got a hat.
They beat them 6-2.
Yeah, they and Sweden also has a really good lineup. Like look at their defense score; it's insane.
Did they chase Henrik Lundqvist?
Yeah, he had in like 5 goals on something.
And they do have, in my opinion, the most equalish defense to Team Canada. I won't say they're better, but they're very very close.
Hedman, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Carlson.
Yeah, Anton Strawman also.
Oh my God!
Either way, like. You look at every single team, even if some look stronger on paper, they're all competitive teams filled with some of the best players in the NHL. And it's honestly anyone's game. Like there's some teams that, have a bit of an edge, but any team can do it.
And I wish that Latvia, Slovakia, all those nice little countries could be in the tournament. But then I look at Team Europe, I look at their roster, look at the way they play, and I say, and they're still the worst team. No, they're still just about the worst team in the tournament. Imagine if you were to dispel the entire thing and then have all those nations compete individually. It'd be a series of blowouts.
Yeah, and
you take, for example, a Kopitar.
Yeah.
Is there any other player in the world from Slovenia?
Probably not.
His brother. That's about it.
Is that where Char is from?
No, he's from Slovakia.
It's a coin flip.
So,
Close.
so like saying, is it a gimmick? Like, I think, it's really exciting to have this in September. You can tell like the players care, and what I like about this is it's like almost like watching an all-star game, but with physicality and actual emotion. Like when you watch the all-stars, they're all just fooling around on the ice. They're not hitting each other. It's slow. It's whatever. But in this, they're fighting hard, and it's just pre-tournament. Like that's what really gets me with this one.
And a lot of people, besides the whole gimmicky thing, it's the fact that it's 2-3 weeks before the actual regular season starts. So you have injuries, and we already saw it now with Tyler Seguin. Does it really matter in the end whether you get injured in World Cup or you get injured in preseason?
Well, the difference is you're not playing hard in preseason.
Well, we've seen some pretty bad injuries in preseason.
But a lot of the important players aren't.
The thing with preseason is that you'll catch a lot of players coming up that are trying to make a name for themselves and are trying to make the team. So that's when you see the most fights. That's when you see the most, I guess, dirtiest hits. But if that just so happens to happen to one of our better players, as opposed to a fourth lineup incomer.
I still see it as less likely. Shea Weber, you mentioned his ferocity.
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to go after
preseason.
guys in the preseason. I don't think people are going to try to mess with him in the preseason.
True.
And aside from this, people get injured in the preseason or in the World Cup. I think people get injured at any time. Like look at, I think it was Stefan Robida in Toronto last year. He injured himself in training camp and was out for like the whole year, wasn't he?
No, he's all but retired at this point.
He is. He actually just got a job.
With Toronto. But
with Toronto.
When I was reading that, it was saying that he injured himself in training camp.
Yeah.
And he was gone for the year. So like this stuff happens at even.
I'll never forget the Joe Sakic one.
And wasn't there a player who got injured at a concert like a couple years ago or something?
I don't remember that, but like Joe Sakic, that's the one I'll never forget. I think he broke his fingers using a snowblower. So
Henrik Lundqvist bruised his rib by playing golf because it stuck into the ground and like stabbed him almost. Almost missed part of the tournament as a result.
Injuries are part of the game. It's going to happen.
All this to say, as far as the World Cup goes, and people complaining about the gimmicks, I can see why people have that feeling, but I still think it makes for a great show, and I personally really enjoy it. I think a lot of people do. And as far as people thinking, injuries and all that stuff, injuries, as we've clearly proven, can happen at any time. And I think, if we're afraid of that, it could happen in game 1 of the NHL season too.
Exactly.
So I don't see it as a big deal. It sucks. Tyler Seguin has the hairline fracture on his heel now.
Yeah.
And that sucks for Dallas, but that stuff happens.
Well, the difference this time is that it's happening in an NHL tournament, not in the Olympics, so they can't get pissy about it.
Yeah.
And I guess, the NHL GMs and all that, they have a say in it. So before they even knew that it was a hairline fracture for Seguin, they pulled him out instantly when it was thought to be just, a very simple injury that would maybe keep him out a week. It was a week-to-week injury, so they figured, let's pull him out early.
Yeah, because, especially when you see players get any kind of injury in this tournament, I think immediately they're just like, okay, yeah, I'm going to, it's not worth it for me to, possibly aggravate this, and I want to be good for the NHL season.
So I think earlier you were transitioning to the Canadians.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it was the training camp.
Yeah, I was going to say,
do we want to give predictions for the World Cup?
We could.
We could. I think Canada wins it. Pretty simple.
I think we'll see Canada-US in the finals, assuming the bracket works that way.
No, because we're in the same group.
Okay, so semis.
No,
so the only way we
you
could
see each other in the finals if Canada finishes first
in
the group,
finals. Yeah,
they go to one semifinal,
Yeah,
USA goes to the other.
My
God,
bad.
making me look stupid, man.
It was my bad. I'm the stupid one.
Okay, I just want to see North America beat US. After that, I don't care what
If
happens.
I saw a Team Canada North America final, that would be
That would
be something to watch.
I'd be okay with Canada beating Team North America, but I really find the way that the U.S. has emphasized grit and determination and heart over skill. I want to see that.
James answer.
I want to see them get punished for that by getting beat by a bunch of 20-year-olds.
I guess we'll see. So.
All right,
now
fine.
we
now
are
you get your
officially
transition.
going
You
into
get your
Habs
transition.
talk, since whoever's watching probably wants to hear a bit about what we think about the Habs. And
HabsChronicle.
Yeah, so training camp is coming up, and like rookie camp has started, and the Canadians kids just played the Pittsburgh kids last night in London, Ontario, and absolutely demolished them 8-3. Charlie Lindgren was in net for the game, and he let in the first goal after like 20 seconds, and I was a bit worried about that. But the Habs top line of McCarron, Lehkonen, and Sherbak was just on fire.
Didn't
and,
Lindgren let in a goal on his like first shot in an NHL game?
Yeah.
Against
the Hurricanes.
Yeah, so the top line of McCarron, Sherbak, and Lehkonen, like, I don't think Sherbak is necessarily going to earn a spot this year, although he does have a chance. But those are three of the top forwards prospects that are fighting for a spot on the team. Yeah. And so if we look at the roster right now, we have a top five that's pretty much certain in, a top line of, say, Pacioretty, Galchenyuk, and Gallagher.
For sake of argument, keep it simple like that?
Yeah, just going to keep it simple. We know that it could be interchangeable, but then there's Plekanec and Radulov on the second line, and the left wing position is not so sure. We have Andrew Shaw, who he's a guy who likes to go up and down the lineup, and he did that really well in Chicago, but I think he's a guy who would excel with a consistent role on the third line. So there's arguably a second left wing spot open right now.
Does David Desharnais get that?
Keep him on the third line.
I know he's not your favorite.
I know. I don't dislike Desharnais. I dislike the usage of Desharnais.
I find it really sucks for him because he's not a bad player.
And look at the points he puts up.
He's just not good enough to be in a top six for over 15 minutes a game.
Yeah, he gets too much.
Easily shut down.
He gets too much 5-on-5 time, too much power play time, and he takes away from other people who could better use it. And obviously the main example, although I think we won't see it this year, is Galchenyuk, because we've seen that over the last couple of years, right? Yeah. Desharnais gets way more time, especially on the power play.
A player I compared Desharnais to, I don't know if you guys remember Kyle Wellwood.
I know the name, I don't remember anything.
He had played with the Leafs. He had played with the Canucks, and then he had moved to the Jets. That was a player that had a lot of skill, and his type of play fit into a top six, but he just didn't have that extra...
It's the extra something.
That extra something to keep him there. So he would go to a third line, and his style wouldn't fit for a third line. This is what I think of Desharnais.
If Desharnais was 4 or 5 inches taller, and I know we say, size isn't such a big thing in this NHL, but I think Desharnais needs it a bit just because he's such a pushover.
Yeah.
And, like, he's so small, and he doesn't have... he's not, like, the weakest guy either. Like, I can't really say that about him. But if he had a bit more size and a bit more, strength to throw around...
He's not a puck battle guy.
He'd be a much more effective player.
Remember that puck battle with Carlson? Where Carlson had held him up against the boards, and he was horizontal. He was like parallel with the boards.
May as well have been doing it with one hand, right?
Pretty much. I don't know if you remember that, though. No?
I mean, it vaguely rings a bell, but getting back to Desharnais, if it's not him on the second line, left wing.
Well, here's the options. There's Andrew Shaw as an option, although I'm trying to argue that he shouldn't be there. But then you also have Daniel Carr and Sven Andrighetto and Arturi Lehkonen.
And Paul Byron.
No. Get out of here.
He's going to be there whether you like it or not because he got a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
He had to lock him up mid-season because Paul Byron was an asset. Look, I'm very sarcastic.
Look, I think, the names that I gave are the guys who are going to fight for that spot. I think Sherbak has an outside chance. I think he's a right winger, one of those typical Russians playing on his offside. But, there's lots of kids that have a really good chance of fighting for that spot, and I think Bergevin is giving them the chance. But I feel like training camp will be really telling for this, because if they show that they're not ready for this, then maybe that's when Bergevin, tries to make a move. I know there's Shipachov, who is technically going to be available starting in December. And although I think he's a natural centerman, I'm pretty sure he also plays left, and I think he might be playing left wing in Russia right now. But like he's lighting it up right now with Kovalchuk and Datsyuk in the KHL,
and he's actually playing very well in the World Cup. With Russia, he's playing on a line with Artemi Panarin and Evgeny Dadonov, who used to be in the NHL.
Wasn't that the Olympic line?
That was also a line in the KHL. The season before Panarin came over to Chicago, he was on that line for I believe it was CSKA in Moscow. SKA St. Petersburg.
Yeah. So I think that Bergevin might just give the kids a chance and either rotate them in, or maybe someone will just really win the spot. A lot of people think Lehkonen could be the guy, and he's I think 5'11", and he's like 170 tops, but he's been so highly touted as like a really amazing player. I think the Saku Koi was saying you'll see this guy play in the NHL this year, and his coaches back in Sweden are saying this guy's the real deal, and obviously he's played for Finland, his home country, and they love him. And he's captain their World Junior team, and he broke Alfredsson's record on
over a point a game.
Yeah,
in the playoffs.
And just even in the game yesterday afternoon in London, he was on the line with McCarron and Sherbak that had a lot of success, and I saw Lehkonen make some really good plays in those highlights.
Yeah.
Like, defensively he's great. He's really good with his stick, has a good shot, he has good hands, he sees the game really well. I think he could potentially be really exciting. It's hard for us to know this for sure because we haven't really seen him in North America yet, except for yesterday.
We don't live in Europe.
We don't know what he can do on North America ice. Like, we've only seen a little bit of it yesterday.
Well, from what I heard, the Swedish league, I believe Swedish Elite League. Actually, they changed the name to the Swedish Hockey League,
which is very convenient.
Is the closest play style to the NHL because you take the KHL and the NHL, it's two different styles. They're complete opposite. One's more rough, one is more skill based. But if you take the Swedish Hockey League, it's the closest in terms of play style to the NHL. It's always been said that
beyond the AHL.
Well, it has always been said that the players that I guess compared to the North American playstyle are the players that come from Sweden. It's really rare you see Swedish players who act like Russians. They're very hard to play against players. You take Gabriel Landeskog, for instance, right?
Well, keep in mind
that's for a Canadian.
Keep in mind, like while Lehkonen was playing in Sweden over the last year, he is a Finn.
True.
So although we have to keep in mind that Finland is killing it on the international stage for the last year or two. Like, they're really producing great players. So this is something to be excited about. Just so hard to say with certainty until we see training camp, the main training camp start when all the big boys come in and see how he fares, because this could be someone who really works out for the team, but we don't know.
So if I'm getting it right, do you want Lehkonen to play second line left wing?
I think so. Yeah.
I say not this season.
Here's a realistic and worse question. Who do you think is actually going to play in that line? It's going to be a plug, isn't it?
I personally think from what I've seen with Terrier and the type of player he likes, it's going to be Andrew Shaw.
I was going to say Paul Byron, but
well, it could be.
Would
Paul
you put it past him?
No.
Putting Paul Byron there?
I would.
He would easily do it.
I honestly,
if there's no production in the first 5 games, I could easily start seeing a Paul Byron come up, a Daniel Carr come up.
Oh, Daniel Carr would be a better option than Paul Byron.
That would be nice.
Definitely.
I don't mind seeing Daniel Carr get a shot, and I think he should get a shot. And there's Andrighetto too. I'm honestly not the biggest Andrighetto fan. Like, I don't dislike him at all. I think he's a good player.
NHL player?
Yes.
Yeah, but I just think with who we have and all the tiny players we got, I don't know if he has his place on our team, because he's the type of player that needs to play top 6 to be effective.
Exactly.
And I don't know if he's fits the bill on our team.
Well, he did play very well when Gallagher was down with the injury and he was on the top line
he
with.
He played okay. He didn't wow me.
Didn't look at a place.
I'm not taking that.
That's what I say.
I don't disagree. I don't think he was bad.
I'm not trying to paint you badly. Don't worry.
No. It's fine.
You didn't look at the line and say, "Well, I think we know what the weak link on the line is."
It's
because it never crossed my mind.
Well, I mean, the team was just so bad. At that
David,
point,
tell
I didn't
me
even care.
exactly
I feel like
why you hate him and why he's never going to be.
Like I said,
an NHL player.
I do not hate Andrighetto, and I don't think he's not an NHL player. I just think, given our specific roster, he would not. He would be best used in a top 6 role, but I don't know if it's in our top 6 that happen. I'm just not convinced.
In my
and
opinion,
I think he's a right winger technically.
Yeah, he's a weak side.
Technically, if he's a centerman,
technically half the roster is a centerman.
Yeah, that's more
than
than half.
Our whole third liner is all centermen.
I don't think he's not going to be playing center.
No,
he's never
there's
played
no
center
way.
here.
No.
And as far as right wings go in the top 6, those spots are taken.
Yeah.
Radulov and Gallagher have those locked up. On the left wing, there's just that one spot under Pacioretty that's open, and I think that'd be on his offside.
It would be on his strong side, which is his weak side, because he's backwards.
Yeah, so I just think, I'm not sure if he'll fit there.
In my opinion, I would start
I would put Daniel Carr over Andrew Ghetto,
in terms of just
wing.
Yes, I say in terms of just skill, he obviously has more than Daniel Carr, and he has more than Andrew Shaw.
For sure.
As a long-term option, we won't know if it's going to work. But he is the guy I would start there and just see what would happen.
See, the reason...
Can I? Okay, I want to bring
No, you can't.
Sure.
Screw you. All right, I'm going to do it anyway.
Oh,
Here's
getting hostile
where
here.
I want to see him on the third line, and I want to... Here's my idea. It's an offensive exploitation line. You put Daniel Carr left wing, you put David Darnay at the center, you put Andrew Ghetto on the right wing. That way you have the line that you never put in the defensive zone. You have Carr, who's a bit more rough and tumble, a bit more of a grinder, Gallagher light, kind of esque, closer anyway. You have Darnay's the playmaker. Andrew Ghetto's the guy who takes the one-timers, takes the skill shots.
Well, here's my problem with that.
Very small line for one.
That's one thing.
Because it will be matched.
Well, Carr is actually not as small as we think he is. He's not a big player either.
If I had to guess, it'd be like 5'8", but I feel like
no, he's closer to 6 feet.
He's exactly 6 feet.
He's 6 feet, so he's actually
doesn't look it. All right.
But my issue with that line is sure you start in the offensive zone all the time when you can. What happens when the puck goes the other way? I think they're screwed.
Well, then they carry it out super quick because they're all good skaters and they're all super
Sure,
little.
they're good skaters, but I think
What if Emlyn has the puck in our end?
Well,
Terry never
then-
matches things right, so we can't rely on him to put the right defenseman out with them. So my
That's
issue.
not my fault. I'm not the
I know
one.
it's not your fault, but we have to think about what's actually going to happen. And I think if the puck goes the other way, there's going to be problems because that's not going to be a very strong defensive line. I think Carr would be the best defensive player on that line.
I don't think it would be as bad a defensive line as people think because, yes, in terms of pure defensive play, as playing without the puck in their own end, I don't think it would be a strength of theirs, but as soon as they get it back, those are three guys that at the very least I associate with just carrying the puck out of the zone.
Yes.
They're all very good skaters. They're not dumb and chase guys, which is why this line is never going to happen. But they would be able to push, okay, fine, it'd be a very good possession line. Let me just show my true colors, okay?
But given the fact that you say you want to make a line, Carr and Andrew Ghetto on the wings, does that mean you pretty much see Andrew Shaw as the left winger on the second line?
Okay,
He's not going on the
I
fourth
admit
line.
that's the problem, and I would have not gotten rid of Lars Eller, which I know I have to operate in the real world here, but that was just my ideal third line. I guess Andrew Shaw, yeah, you kind of have to put him on the second line left wing.
Well, this brings up an interesting point because I mentioned this on Twitter a bunch of weeks ago, and I really don't know if I can come up with all the names offhand. Don't bother trying to find it. It was a long time ago. We have so many extra players, both on forward and defense,
That's a very kind way of putting it. It's just extra.
It's just how do we fit like how you were saying with your ideal third line, and then you're forced to put Andrew Shaw on the second line. But you have Revi's. I had listed Revi as a possibility originally, but it seems like for now it's probably not going to happen because he's apparently having some pretty bad health issues.
It's confirmed, not confirmed that he might miss the rest of the year. Nobody majors confirmed it, but it's not looking good. We're writing him off for now.
So forget him for now. But then you have Lehkonen, McCarron, Sherback, Hudon, Carr, Andrew Ghetto. Then you have also Flynn, Mitchell, Byron, Deneau, Darnay, Shaw, Mito, I always forget about him. Chris Terry, Bobby Farnham. It's 10 or 15 players I just named for 7 spots. And a few of those we know are Chris Terry and Bobby Farnham are more likely to play HL.
Well, they are on two-way deals.
They are on
So
two-way
you could
deals,
assume.
and so is Daniel Carr, I believe.
No, Daniel Carr just re-signed a one-way deal. Daniel Carr and Sven Andrew Ghetto are both on one-way contracts.
Technically, though,
But I think Daniel Carr has to waive or something.
according to
Yes.
CapFriendly.com,
That's the rule of the one-way.
Yeah, so that's what I mean.
according to CapFriendly.com, Daniel Carr is waivers exempt.
Yeah, that's what
Okay, so
that's what I
okay.
meant to say. So he can go between without having to go through waivers. But the thing with Farnham and Terry is that they both are NHL players, bottom line NHL players, but they both bring something. And
Well,
these are all players that are all going to compete for such a there's twice the amount of players that there are spots.
Yeah.
So how is this going to work?
And just a quick thing, Bobby Farnham had 8 goals last year.
Yeah, which
Which
for
isn't
a plug
bad for
is
a fourth line plug.
and especially on a team like New Jersey, like
Who
that's
doesn't score?
that's actually not that bad. And he, like some of his play style is a bit questionable, like as far as how far he goes with his physicality and all that, and he gets a bit dirty. And sometimes there's this pretty famous dive of his.
Yeah.
Pretty. Now I see that like Marchand-esque, but
I think you might be confused with the dive. I don't think the dive was him. They had another player called up. I think his name was Joseph Blandisi. I think it was him.
That's something to look up.
Anyways.
I was pretty sure it was Farnham, but either way, anyways, he 8 goals as a plug is pretty decent,
Good.
and he has a lot of speed too.
But
Definitely.
even if 8 goals is a plug, not bad. Hudon could get 8 goals, and he'd be developing.
I would
agree.
definitely play Udall.
I would
Anyone
for
would.
sure play Hudon over him, even if it's on the 4th line. But so that just brings up the whole point. Lekkonen's ready. Hudon, I totally believe, is ready. McCarron is
At least give him a shot.
Yeah.
Well, do you remember Pacioretty? His first time called up was playing on the bottom 6 with us, and he publicly said, "Look,
didn't he score like in his first game?
he did score in his first game, but then after that, he was kind of just invisible." And he said himself, he's like, "Look, if I have to play,
Well, he
if I have to
still
play-
does that.
Yeah, but I'm saying he said if I have to play 3rd line and 4th line in the NHL, just ship me down to the AHL where I'll play 1st line, I'll produce, and that way I'll definitely improve." And that's what they did.
I just think the point with Hudon is that he's done his time,
Yeah.
and for the 2 years he's been in the AHL, he's been the best player on the team.
Yeah.
And he got
only so much you can learn.
and he's not going to get any better in that league. He's already proven what he has to prove there, and he only, last year we had so many injuries. We had one of the most man games lost in the entire NHL, yet he only got 2 call-up games the whole year,
Yeah.
and he got 2 assists in those. They got an assist in both games, and you don't call him up after that. Like and the AHL team was already went to hell. Like it wasn't like they're keeping him there to keep that team strong.
Yeah.
Because they were bringing so many other players up. No, that team was already in the toilet. So like there was no reason not to bring him up. So I question what the management is thinking with this guy.
Yeah.
Because
The issue with the team is that there are not enough spots on the roster to put all the rookies on, and then we have 5 plugs, 5 or so, right?
Yeah. So, and this goes to show, like, what do you think the Canadiens are going to do now with all these players? Because now they have, on the roster as of right now, they have 25 players.
And where are they on their 50 contracts?
50 contracts. Let's see.
They're 25 players on the main roster.
47
And
contracts.
you could only hold, from what I know, you could only hold 23 players on your active roster.
I believe so. That sounds right.
So now we're technically not allowed to start the season.
Out of 23 right now, I think, if you go up.
We're not
they have
allowed to
25
start.
out of 23.
We're not allowed to start the season.
So 2 players.
2 people have to go down.
2 are going down. I
Uh,
guess it's safe to assume Matto was going down.
And Zach Redmond.
Zach
probably.
Redmond, I don't believe, is going down because we need a 7th defenseman to stay on the team.
Sergachev.
No.
But there are 8
Definitely
defensemen
not
on
as
the
a
roster.
7th.
We have 8 defensemen with him.
We're carrying 8 defensemen.
There's Barbario and Patterin, Yemelin, Markov.
Okay,
and
it's
so
Yeah,
forth.
so Renman's probably going down.
So
But Redmond was also signed to a one-way deal, I believe.
I think Bergevin just saw some decent
And Barbario as well.
depth players that just maybe at camp they'll prove something, and if they don't, waive them. I think he actually said that. I know we have a lot of extra players, a lot of depth guys, and there's all these kids coming up, and if the people that win the spots, and if people don't win the spots, they'll go on the waiver wire. And I'm pretty sure he literally said that. So I think that's probably what it'll end up being. It has to be.
But I think if you start putting guys like, okay, well now we know Daniel Carr is waiver exempt, but
he's too good to be put through waivers. To be sent down, rather.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like Andrew Gatto, for instance, if you put him on waivers, I
Yeah,
think there's
I
a
don't think
good
he makes
chance. I think there's a good chance someone claims him.
Pretty good chance.
Um,
Matteau, no.
Matteau probably
Matteau
not,
just
unless
needs
there's a
to
team
go.
that takes a chance on his potential, which I think is non-existent.
Yeah,
But if some people still believe it's there, sure. But
like when I saw this Smith Pelly from Matteau trade, I'm like, it seemed lateral at the time, just like a guy that wasn't really doing much for us, for a guy that's not really doing much for them, and his former first round pick, maybe he'll do something.
yeah,
And we all know Smith Pelly just lit it up in New Jersey.
Would you like the numbers to make you feel better? He did have a crap ton. He had a really high shooting percentage. Smith Pelly. It was a lot of luck.
I don't think that.
Well,
I don't think he's a 30
never
goal
score
scorer
at that pace.
I don't think he'll score
it was just
ever
kind
again
of
at that pace.
It was just kind of
It was just
unfortunate
nice
to
to
see that.
see, I guess.
It was nice for him.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like annoying to see it at the same time.
It was nice for him. For Montreal, it was the knife slowly twisting.
Yeah, but
and all we could say is no kidding. A guy we traded is lighting it up. Oh,
and
boy.
then we watch Mateau here just doing absolutely nothing, and I just don't see how he possibly can have a spot on this lineup when you have all those other guys that we've listed.
All right, I think we need to get through it. So, hypothetical scenarios for the fourth line are kind of messy. Let's go on what you like. Just go on what you think is going to happen.
You want it first?
I think in this whole topic, we forgot about Philip Deneau.
I mentioned him briefly in my list of like 15 players, but we haven't really.
Another afterthought?
My fourth line, Torrey Mitchell, I think is the fourth line center. I have a little bit
He's
of
going to be there.
Yeah, he'll be there. I have a bit of a bias towards Brian Flynn. I think Brian Flynn should be there, but it's tearing. He's probably going to put Byron. And on the right wing,
No, but he loves Flynn too. He's been on like the right wing, left, whichever wing, doesn't matter.
I think he was on the second line with Galchenyuk for about half a game. He got an assist, and then he was taken out. Typical Derek.
Makes sense, right?
So
Mitchell, Flynn,
Byron,
and then where's
Mitchell, Byron. But
where does Deneau go?
Deneau should be third line center according to Bergevin,
Yeah,
which
because
leaves
that's
that
why
spot
we
for
got rid of
Desharnais,
Allen, right?
And then Shaw plays on his off wing.
Well, he plays all three positions, and he played a lot of right wing in Chicago.
Okay,
He played on Taves right a lot.
On his left.
Because
Hossa was on the right.
And I still feel like we haven't solved who plays second line left wing. I feel
Exactly.
like it's going to have to be Desharnais. I know that, but
it's not going to be.
He's not bad on the wing.
He's better on the third line though when he's sheltered. Playing with Plekanec means he's not going to be sheltered.
But then who else takes the spot?
Look at it this way, okay?
We don't know. We don't know, but it won't
think
be
about
Desharnais.
this, right?
Admit it.
No.
Whenever we played top teams, you're playing Washington, you're playing Pittsburgh, you're playing Tampa. When Stamkos, Ovechkin, and Crosby are on the ice, Plekanec is the centerman shutting them down, right?
And then you put Desharnais.
So now you're gonna have Desharnais on the wing and Radulov on the wing with Crosby and Ovechkin and Stamkos.
I'm not so concerned about Radulov being there because he plays hard and he's a strong guy.
Well, Desharnais plays hard too,
you
but
could
it's
just
just the defensive instinct is not there.
You could solve that problem. You put Galchenyuk out there instead. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking Galchenyuk, not terrible defensively, but it's not his strength. He's surrounded by Pacioretty and Gallagher, two guys who are great defensively.
Is Pacioretty great defensively?
I would think so.
I mean,
who did he play with on the penalty kill?
It's all about Plekanec.
And I'm not saying that because to me he's my favorite player.
If I had to pick a camp,
you totally are.
No, absolutely not. Because I find if you put Pacioretty with Torrey Mitchell, who also killed penalties, would it have the same effect as Plekanec?
I'm firmly in the
chemistry.
camp that Pacioretty is a better defensive player than Plekanec. I think his defensive play, Plekanec, that is a bit overblown.
You're telling that to the wrong guy.
Really? Pacioretty better than? Come on.
I'd love to talk about it. I think we're running a bit long though. So
simple thing. When Desharnais was centering Pacioretty, which happened a lot.
Yeah, it did.
It was the line that was hemmed into our end the whole time. From what I noticed, I was like, Desharnais and Pacioretty on the ice together. That line is stuck in our zone, and more times than not, it was.
But to your point about why does Pacioretty look good defensively because of Plekanec? I don't think it's because of that.
I'm not saying it's entirely
because they gel better, and it's a two-way thing.
It is, and I'm not saying he makes him look good. He obviously has some kind of defensive thing to him. Mm-hmm. But to look at him as I would never play him on my first penalty kill unit. It's just.
Okay, so I
guess it's just the way I look at things.
So I think we want to start wrapping up a bit.
Well, we got to get
talked about the defenseman.
We do have to get to Beaulieu.
So we're going to talk about the defenseman real briefly because there's a bit of a jam there too. Like we now said, there's 8 guys, and that's not even counting Sergachev, who has a realistic shot of at least starting the season to get like a 9-game trial.
At least the 9-game trial.
But you have Shea Weber, Petrie, and Patterson on the right side, and then you have Markov, Beaulieu, Barbario on the right side. You also have Redmond on the right side as an 8th defenseman. So there's a bit of a jam there. Patterson really started to show what he's got. He has a good shot. He's a good stay-at-home defenseman. He has a big, he's really physical. He does a lot of good things. Barbario, good puck move, defensive instinct. Beaulieu, similar type player.
I favor Barbario a bit over Beaulieu.
Part of me does
hot
too.
takes, but I don't say that as a knock to Barberio, because I do think he's a good player.
They're not far apart.
Yeah, I think they're pretty similar players. So this brings us to the point that we have Shea Weber on the top line playing top minutes, and you need to put someone who can handle that. Markov will not be able to handle that.
No, he won't. Emlyn, for the love of God,
yeah.
no.
So that leaves Barberio and Bollia. Barberio doesn't have the experience to play top line. Not really Bollia either, but I think Bollia should get the chance. But we know that he's involved in
what's
some trade
crazy is
speculation,
the
right?
second we got Weber, a lot of people were saying, well, look, you can't play Markov there. Not so much because of the ice time, but because of just, the speed. The second Markov
really
and
both.
Weber are on the ice together, you put a quick line out, they're going to take advantage of them.
Yeah. Markov Subban worked because Subban was the workhorse.
Exactly.
Markov was the one could play a bit risky, play the blue line, and if he gets caught out of position, there's Subban. Who does that for Weber and Markov? Neither of them are.
And for some reason, I still think they're going to end up together to start the year.
It's a very Terrier thing to happen, and it probably will. And we've been saying this for the past couple of years. Markov is a good player.
He's a very good player.
But what happens is that he gets way too much ice time and way too many hard assignments throughout the first half of the year. And then he clearly regresses over the second half. And last year it happened pretty quickly. It happened a lot faster than the year before. And then, when playoffs come around, when the team makes it, he's not an effective player anymore. So that's a problem. And that's where Bollier, a player who is a top four defenseman, he deserves that chance because he would learn so much from playing with Weber, and he would, balance well with him. But like I was about to allude to before, Bollier is now involved in some trade speculation, and Bergevin confirmed that, teams are calling. And while he's not shopping him, the famous words that he used with the Subban debacle.
Not worth a lot anymore, is it? His word.
His word isn't worth much anymore,
Absolutely
but
not.
we know teams are calling, and seeing like as he said on one of the TSN radios a day or two ago, he would not be shocked at all if Bollier was traded. So what do we think? Like, if that happens, who do we get? And then if it's not a lefty, how do we fill in that role in the top four or even the top two?
Well, the two things I've seen are that either he's shipped for another defenseman, I guess Bollier and other assets for another defenseman on the left who could skate, who could move the puck, similar style, but just I guess a bit better.
Basically Cam Fowler, although this guy will say otherwise.
Basically Cam Fowler.
I'm not impressed with Cam Fowler. I looked at some of the scoring rates there. I wouldn't say that Bollier's are like strictly better, but there's no evidence to suggest Cam Fowler's any better scorer, and we would have to pay for him. We'd have to put Bollier in a package with something else for Fowler, who is not a noticeable upgrade if I'm looking.
And pay $4 million annually for him. So
not a fan of that either.
So who
or make a package, but instead of getting yourself a left defenseman, you get that second line left winger that we have no idea who's even going to be there to start the season.
And then who plays with Weber?
Barberio.
This is the thing. Is Barberio?
There's
do you
not
want to
much
give?
else left.
Do you want to give that responsibility to Barberio?
You're pillaging your own blue line.
Do you want to give it to Emlyn? Obviously not.
This
you don't
is-
want to give it to Markov because
It's something that we'd potentially see in preseason, or at least at the end of preseason, because I think the preseason and World Cup overlap. I'm pretty sure. And assuming Canada makes it through towards the end, which is likely, Weber won't be back. I don't even know if he'll play any preseason, to be honest. He might play like one game.
I doubt he will.
I doubt they're going to put him.
But even if there's time to
Well,
play
it
the game,
might
he'll
just
likely
be to
sit out.
see, who he has chemistry with,
Yeah,
because they kind of
good
need to
point.
figure that out. And we might discover that Barberio, for example, might somehow work really well with Weber. We don't know. And then in the pipeline, there's Sergachev, who, like I said before, has a really strong chance of at least getting a tryout with the team. And then there's Noah Juleson, who's not ready for the NHL yet, but he's someone to think about over the next year or two that is going to fill in that role.
Yeah, like a maybe, but he's isn't he righty?
Jolson? Yes.
Yeah. He's
So
right.
he can't play with Weber.
Yeah.
No.
So essentially, if we trade Bollier and Barberio doesn't work out, Plan B is
Chris Russell.
Sergachev.
Sign
No,
Chris
as
Russell.
far as Juleson goes, I was just like mentioning
Yeah, okay.
how the defensive line is going to look in the next couple of years when you get rid of Bollier and with Subban gone and with Markov on pretty Markov's last year.
Yes. On the contract.
Yeah,
yes.
on contract. So
Yes,
that's going
as
to be
a
something
lease.
to look out for.
In the NHL, I don't think so.
No, but I'm saying as far as the Habs go, I mean, they might re-sign him, we don't know. But Markov and Yemlin are both, their contracts are both done after this year.
No, Emlyn has another year.
Oh,
Markov,
Emlyn's contract expires when Price's contract expires. So you just give Price the extra money.
Yeah, you give Price Yemlin's contract on top of what he's making now, and then you have a good contract for him.
Yeah,
Markov, in my opinion, is coming back 100%. I don't think they're just gonna let Andrei Markov walk to free agency.
But then the question becomes, he's made like what 5.75 every year, consistently for the last several years.
Yeah.
Do they give that to him like on a 1-year deal, just like out of respect?
I would give it
loyalty.
Yeah, I would give it like a similar to Thomas Buchanan. 2-year contract.
No.
Give him the money.
No tears.
I would give him money.
The guy still puts up over 40 points.
But he becomes because he plays power play and he plays top pairing. Like that's just natural. That's just how it goes. When you put anyone with Crosby, right? It's the same thing. So many points up. Put them in a lesser role, they won't put those points up. I'm not saying Markov isn't a great player. He is, but he's way past his prime, and like I said, the regression happens halfway through the year every year and becomes a serious liability. But the points will always come because he's the guy on the ice the most. So he's making the passes to the forwards and they score. That's just natural.
Respect is definitely a big thing.
Yeah.
So I think I say bring him back. Maybe not on a 2-year contract.
I say 1-year deal, couple mil.
I'm more of
Will
a
Andrei Markov ever
lately.
say, you know what, I'll take a 1-year 2 mil or 3 mil? I don't think Markov would do that. And no matter
But would he get a better offer anywhere else?
Yes.
At his age?
Yeah. No 30, what is he, 37, 38? No defenseman at that age is still able to do what he does.
Toronto will take him. They take lots of old, like quote unquote broken parts just to use to as mentors for the kids.
Like they did this season. McCallick, Brooks, Colin Greening.
Roman Polak.
Well, they brought him.
Okay, Parenteau, Brandon Prust.
Okay, so getting a bit off topic here.
Yeah.
So the defenseman we've speculated. It's hard to say exactly what's going to happen, especially with the Boldy rumors now. The final last topic, just to get through a bit quickly, the goaltenders. We brought in Al Montoya.
Yeah.
So now you have Mike Condon and Charlie Lindgren who are fighting. Fucali's not really in the picture, I don't think. Lindgren is sort of in the picture, and Condon obviously should be in the picture. But you have Al Montoya there who's almost set up to get that backup spot. So what happens there? Too many goalies.
I'm going to make it simple. No GM would sign a player and trade him.
Yeah.
A sign and trade won't happen.
Well,
very rarely.
It's a very effective way to tell free agents to go screw themselves.
Exactly. You just...
They're not coming to Montreal.
Exactly. So
they already
don't come. Then you're going to pull a stunt like that. You're totally ruining the reputation.
Condon is the one on the way out.
And I don't think he should be, but yes.
Because Lindgren we signed towards the end of the year out of college, and Al Montoya got in free agency. So these are two guys that I think
work it top down. You got Price and then Montoya.
Yeah.
And then you got St. John, soon to be Laval. I figure you have Fucali
and Lindgren.
Maybe Condon.
No.
Split, but Lindgren I think
look at
the
this way.
ECHL. Lindgren goes to the ECHL.
Condon just started a full season basically. Obviously he wasn't supposed to, and he's never going to do that again. But playing over 50 games with us, do you ship him down and have him split an AHL season with Fucali? No.
I think they have to trade him.
Who wants a goalie?
Judging by free agency, a lot of teams wanted backups. I think our whole second hour was announcing backup signing.
Yeah, but that's the point. Now everybody is backup. I mean, Jay Reimer was the big ticket goalie item on the market, and he essentially got a glorified backup position.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of room.
I think Bergevin dug himself a hole signing way too many players.
Yeah, so just quick recap, way too many forwards, probably at least 5 or 7 too many.
Way too few defensemen.
Way too few quality defensemen, yet there's still too many on the roster technically. There's 8 of them. And then the goalie situation.
And I've said this. A lot of people said, man, why does he keep going for defensemen? He always gets defensemen. You know how he always says that famous quote, you can never have too many defensemen. Mm-hmm. He never gets quality defensemen.
Jeff Petrie was quality.
But
I like Barberio. That worked out.
But I'm talking like a quality defenseman. Barberio started in the AHL.
And
there's
now,
a good
I think,
chance he
And
wasn't
he'll-
supposed to even be with us.
if you squint, he looks like a top 4.
True, he does have the play style. He could definitely fit. He could definitely help produce on a second power play unit. But I'm saying that second guy to play with Petrie, or in this case, to play with Weber, he hasn't done it. Now he's been focusing on forwards, which we also needed. But I guess he's kind of like, he's overlooked the fact that, we still need a defenseman. And I'm sure he knows that there's some guy we have to use with Weber. And I'm sure he knows it's not Markov. What do you think he does? Do you think he just uses Beaulieu? Do you think he trades Beaulieu?
Well, my answer to that would have been, he's trying just to wait and see for training camp and see what the situation is. But Weber is not going to really be at training camp, so it's hard to really say.
I guess the World Cup of Hockey did kind of interrupt some stuff that we had to look over. Because we're not going to know who Weber's going to play with.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll find out against the Leafs on the home opener, right? They are playing.
No,
Sabres.
Sabres.
What the hell?
Yeah, and the first game of the season, I believe, is against Pittsburgh.
First home,
The first game of the season.
Like, and
They
it's
It's
start
on the
against
road.
Pittsburgh.
We start on the road.
aren't you? I think
That
Sabres
sucks.
is the first game.
Is it the Sabre? I
Probably look it up.
Anyways.
Anyway, so James, do you want to just wrap up the show a bit since we've kind of.
All right, well, that's the
Talk
show.
about it.
That is the show.
Well, it's not, Who do you think's going to win the World Cup? Canada?
Pretty
All
much.
right, who's going to play with Weber, Beaulieu?
Probably.
Hopefully.
And who's going to play in the fourth line? It doesn't matter because there's too many people.
Yeah.
It's like having
Even the third line, too many people.
Quick question. Do you think he makes a trade to get rid of some players, or he just waves them and sends them down? I want him to make a trade. I think he's going to waive.
I think he'll probably waive. He'd have made it by now, or there'd be there'd be an obvious move.
Trades don't seem to happen often at this time of year, do they?
No.
I think.
But go through training camp, see what some
yeah,
players are like.
I
maybe
think it's
make a
more
trade.
likely that we see some players hit the waiver wire.
Yeah. And I mean, there's going to be a lot of players on the waiver wire right before the season starts anyway, so
Yeah.
This time they'll be our players.
this time they'll just be our players, yeah. So we're going to give a few gifts out to the NHL.
All right, so that's our show. We'll probably be back in a few weeks, especially around the season starting. And
We're definitely going to try to make these a lot more consistent, because if we stick to the usual do one every time there's a big NHL event, we're going to be here once every 2 months, and
we want to.
you're not going to see a whole lot of us.
We just want to get you guys some more content, more things to think about and discuss about. And as far as our next show goes, we'll be really excited to see how this discussion is going to sound next time, because we'll have probably a clearer idea of how these lines are going to shape up, and that's going to be really exciting.
At the small sample,
Yeah.
at the beginning of the year. James, anything?
Goodbye.
All right, cool.
If you guys would like, just please like the HabsChronicle Facebook page.
And
That way,
Twitter page.
and the Twitter page,
And Instagram.
Like, comment, subscribe.
all the social medias. That way you
I had
can
to
get
say it, okay?
that way you can get all the updates when we go live, general hockey updates, not just Montreal Canadiens, and basically future updates. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.